Good day, viewers. Welcome to the first episode of this new series. Today we're going to break down the weapon stats. Let's begin. Yeah, let's just ignore those parts for now. The first thing we're going to look at is the 50% faster firing rate. While this is definitely an important piece of the weapon, it shouldn't be the main draw. The faster firing rate does allow for some serious burst damage when used correctly, which makes it very fitting for the whole hit and run concept. This is especially useful when fighting heavies. Although, it's very important to note your fire rate doesn't really mean shit if you miss. You'll just end up looking like a dumbass. You want to have just a little patience when using the Force of Nature. Just take your time, light up the first shot, and only take the second shot when you're confident that you're going to hit. Having both shots hit cleanly gives you much higher damage before needing to reload, which is very useful against higher health pools. The next stat to look into is the knockback on target and shooter. This right here is the main attraction. The knockback this weapon gives is super useful in multiple forms. When used correctly, it'll give you the upper hand. First, we'll look at a common interaction. Bear with me, there's a lot to dig up in this. A Puff and Sting combo is something a pyro uses. This is where the damage is dealt with primary, followed by an air blast, and finishing the damage with a secondary of choice. It's very similar with a Force of Nature, the main difference being you deal damage and knockback in the same action. Of course, if you really want to rub it in, you can finish them off with melee. And of course, it's fun to bully your opponents by shoving them into environmental hazards, but that's far more fun than it is reliable. Knockback on the shooter is where potential opens up. You can use this extra lift as a third jump to cover more horizontal distance. You can use it to save your ass from falling off a cliff, which is pretty helpful. And of course, my favorite, you can do verticals. A vertical is simple. You just run forward, and when you want to go up, fire down at about 45 degrees and jump at the same time. Follow up by using your double jump to move yourself the direction you need. Verticals are extremely useful for escapes and navigation. Here's some examples on 2 Fort. You have a jump from the ground to the bridge roof. You can jump from the ground to the battlements. And with a little extra difficulty, you can even jump from the water up to the main yard. On High Tower, the possibilities open up even more. You have the jump up the center of the high tower, and from the elevator up to the battlements. You can go from the cart's starting position up towards the spawn. You can shortcut up these stairs. If you use an atomizer, you can even skip the center ramp entirely. The list goes on. You get the idea. You have high mobility at a moment's notice. Finally, a vertical is useful for putting yourself in an obscure hiding spot. This is a slightly less effective use case, but it's rather fun to drop from somewhere absolutely no one expects and dump box shot into their hitbox. Plus, playing Fortunacer Scout does rely on the element of surprise, so using this move can definitely turn out in your favor. Now let's move on to the much less interesting stats. These two here work in tandem. Saving you the technical speak, what these stats imply is that you'll have very high damage up close and negligible damage from range. This is just further reason to find the best way to be up close and personal. It's best to be using certain routes and angles to make sure that you can get right in your enemy's grill without being in danger for very long. The final stat is the most simple. Instead of 6 shells, you only have 2. Pretty straightforward. The simplicity of this downside turns out to be your biggest handicap. As Scout, you're heavily rewarded if every shot connects, and you are not rewarded for when you miss. The Force of Nature is far less forgiving in this area than Stock, since you have 4 fewer chances to hit. Let me reiterate what I said in the beginning. You want both shells to connect strong. If you do, the damage output is very respectable and can easily be cleaned up with a damage dealing secondary. Take good aim, and you'll do alright. Alright, that's all she wrote. Next episode is likely to be about secondary and or melee choices. As mentioned before, if you have anything you want me to demonstrate, then I'll try my best to deliver. Catch you later.